Before anything else, nobody named in this story has been charged with a crime, anywhere, by anyone. What follows is what has been publicly reported and alleged by investigators and journalists. Nothing here is a finding of guilt, and everyone involved has denied wrongdoing. 9 days before one of the biggest football teams on earth won the World Cup in 2022, their federation handed over the rights to collect all of its international commercial income to a company that, reportedly, had never worked in football before and had barely existed long enough to have a track record at all. That company allegedly took a 30% cut of everything, a rate one investigative report called unprecedented. And by 2026, that same arrangement had reportedly caught the attention of the FBI over allegations that hundreds of millions of dollars moved through the American banking system in a pattern investigators associate with money laundering. To be clear from the outset, this is a preliminary investigation. No charges have been filed in the United States or in Argentina. The Football Federation and its officials have publicly denied any wrongdoing and say they're being politically targeted. This video isn't about proving what happened. It's about explaining the actual financial mechanism being alleged, because whether or not any of it turns out to be true, the pattern itself is a genuinely fascinating look at how money can supposedly be moved and hidden inside something that looks completely ordinary. Here's the alleged structure, as reported. A major sports federation generates enormous sums from sponsorships, broadcasting deals, and commercial partnerships. Normally, that money flows directly into the federation's own accounts. But reportedly, shortly before a major tournament win, the rights to collect that income were instead assigned to a newly created private company, registered in the United States with no prior experience in the sport at all. On paper, this looks like an unremarkable commercial licensing deal. Federations outsource commercial operations to agencies all the time. That's precisely what makes this pattern, if the allegations are accurate, so effective. It doesn't look like anything is wrong. It looks like ordinary business. The part that reportedly drew investigators' attention wasn't the arrangement itself. It was where the money allegedly went afterward. According to reporting, transfers from that company were allegedly traced to a series of smaller shell companies, some of them reportedly linked to individuals who, by any reasonable financial profile, had no plausible connection to sums of that size. Some recipients were reportedly in personal debt or living in public housing before allegedly receiving transfers that didn't match their financial history at all. Neighbors reportedly noticed sudden, unexplained changes in lifestyle. Some individuals reportedly changed phone numbers and left their homes shortly after. This pattern has a name in financial crime investigation. It's often called layering, taking money from its original source and moving it through a chain of unrelated accounts and companies, specifically to make the original source harder to trace. Each individual transfer can look mundane on its own. It's only when investigators map the entire chain that a pattern allegedly starts to emerge. The reason any of this reportedly falls under American jurisdiction at all comes down to one detail. Some of the money reportedly passed through United States banks and a U.S.-registered company, which under American law can be enough to give federal prosecutors authority over transactions that otherwise happened entirely outside the country. This is reportedly the same legal framework federal prosecutors used in 2015 to bring down FIFA's own leadership over a separate, unrelated bribery scandal, a case that ended with senior football officials worldwide facing real criminal charges. None of this proves the current allegations are true. It does explain why federal investigators, rather than only authorities in Argentina, are reportedly involved at all. According to reports, the investigation itself dates back further than the current headlines suggest, reportedly beginning with a tip from Argentina's own Ministry of Security back in 2024, initially considered too thin to act on before newer financial records reportedly pushed it into a formal case in 2026. And the timing is, whatever the outcome, genuinely difficult to ignore. The federation in question is currently competing for the World Cup, live right now, while this story unfolds around it. Investigators have reportedly said the probe is unlikely to affect anything on the pitch, since it isn't a competition eligibility case. But it is, allegedly, unfolding alongside one of the most watched sporting events on the planet, which is precisely why a story about offshore transfers and shell companies has broken out of financial journalism and into ordinary sports coverage at all. So where does this actually leave things? Nowhere definitive, yet, and that's the honest answer. Investigators are reportedly still gathering financial records and testimony. Officials say they've done nothing wrong. Whether any of this becomes formal charges, quietly fades into an unresolved case file, or turns into something much larger, is genuinely not something anyone can respond to with certainty right now. What is worth taking from it, regardless of how it resolves, is the mechanism itself. If the allegations turn out to be accurate, this wouldn't be an especially sophisticated fraud. It would be an old, well-understood pattern, dressed up in the completely ordinary, boring language of commercial licensing and sponsorship rights. And that, more than any specific number or name, is usually how financial deception is alleged to actually work in the real world. Not through anything that looks criminal on the surface, but through paperwork so unremarkable that nobody thinks to look twice.